8 dead under trials, a scandalous mystery over their jailbreak. And 100 questions raised about whether the encounter was genuine or a terrifying orchestration.
The word encounter is a peculiarly Indian word because it suggests in a way that someone has been killed in a manner that clearly is not within the purview of the law. It suggests to me an extrajudicial killing.
In a lot of these cases, the entire circumstances, the narration of the events, there have been certain inconsistencies in these encounters.
Nowhere in the world do you hear this word encounter. Police killed a criminal on the streets of Los Angeles in an encounter. You won't hear that. But in India you hear that because the word encounter somewhere has got identified with this entire notion of an extrajudicial killing where the police in a sense takes the law into their own hands.
Let's not forget that the word encounter originated in Mumbai with a very famous encounter in Wadala in 1982. And later it moved on to Punjab, where you had a string of encounters which were actually against, it's basically policemen versus terrorists in Punjab, where both sides were kind of firing at each other. But in Mumbai, the encounters did seem to deviate from the narrative that had been established in Punjab, which is like both sides are heavily armed and shooting at each other. And in Mumbai, you had this thing of, it was mostly one-sided because it was the police versus gangsters. And gangsters, as we all know, were trying to, fight, escape rather than stand and fight, like, say, motivated terrorists. So that's the first time that encounters actually started to get a bad name in India. That's all through the 90s and the 2000s.
It was early in the day. We were just finished with our editorial meeting, and then there was news that there is an encounter outside Ahmedabad. Wherein 4 Lashkar-e-Taiba terrorists has been eliminated. It was important because for the very first time, we heard that one woman, Lashkar-e-Taiba terrorist was among those 4, and she was also killed.
19-year-old girl from Mumbai, and she's found in that condition on the street. These people killed there. Not just a huge photo op, because the next day you could see the picture spread all over.
Mumbai is on the outskirts of Mumbai. So we Mumbaikars were really shocked. Every Mumbaiker was shocked. How a 19-year-old girl has been killed in a blooded encounter. And why a 19-year-old girl will be associated with the terrorist? What was the crime? What she was doing?
But the big talking point of that case was again, because it was spun completely around the fact that these were Lashkar militants who had actually planned to assassinate Narendra Modi. The plan had been discovered by the police, and then they had been killed in this encounter.
Being a Mumbaikar reporter, we had no knowledge about such and such encounter has happened in Gujarat, in Ahmedabad. But after second day, the story became Mumbai originated. Ahmedabad disappeared from this case, and it was completely focused on Ishrat, her family background, her education institute, her college, everything.
And if you remember, there were certain channels which had actually reached the family of Ishrat Jahan, and her mom was very, very upset with how the media was handling it, or how she was being called a militant at that time.
I met her family, and her mother was literally shocked. I mean, she did not know what was her daughter's fault.
There was amazing number of conversations that came out from the mother and the brother. Their version became very important at that time.
Ishrat had called her mother one day before the encounter taken place, and she told her mother that on the phone that Ammi, kuch log mujhe ghoor rahe hai. Some people are staring at me. I'm afraid. I'll call you after some time. I'll call you after 10 minutes. And after 10 minutes, Ishrat called her mother again, and she said, now Javed has come here, and now everything is okay. I'll call you back. After that, her mother did not hear anything about her, and she read in the newspapers that her daughter has been killed, murdered.
But it was human rights activists, some opposition parties who pointed fingers lately on this encounter, that how come a 19-year-old girl who was studying DSc in Mumbai had joined Lashkar-e-Toiba and had gone to assassinate Narendra Modi all the way to Gujarat, while she had informed her parents at home that she is going to Pune with her friend, one of her uncle, in fact, who was her mentor.
So the question on Ishrat Jahan encounter was that there were 4 people who were killed by the ATS people, Gujarat ATS people. There is no doubt about other 3 because they had a criminal background. Javed, Pranesh Pillai was converted into Javed. He became Javed. He had a criminal background. Other 2 who were killed, they were Pakistanis, Pakistani nationals with a criminal background. They had come to India with an intention to kill Narendra Modi and all. So there were no doubt about the criminal background. But why Ishrat? What was Ishrat's crime? She did not have any criminal background. So my guess is that she was in a wrong company with wrong people at the wrong time. Because after Ishrat and Javed, they were in Nashik. And this theory is that what Ishrat's family is saying, Gujarat ATS people abducted them from Nashik and took them to Ahmedabad and then shot them over there. But what was she doing in Nashik? What was she doing with Javed in Lucknow in the first place? So Javed had told him that he's in a business of perfumes and Ishrat was associating him. She was earning some money out of the business. She was helping Javed. That was the story. But the hidden part is that which Ishrat's mother had told me that time, that Ishrat had told her that I'm going to give up this job. I don't think these people are good. I don't think these people are nice. This is my last job. Anyway, my college session is starting in June. So I will be resuming my studies. I don't want to continue with them. This story nobody highlighted.
Remember, even in that case, if you go back and try and ponder about it, there were a lot of loopholes that were just staring you in the face. For example, she was supposed to be going to Nasik. How did she land at another place and kill somewhere else in Ahmedabad or the outskirts?
Being a normal girl, this 19-year-old, she did not have any criminal background. She did not have any conflict with each other. She did not used to fight to the neighbors. So how a person who suddenly, very normal, psychologically fit, mentally fit, suddenly becomes a terrorist? We are branding her, we in the sense, the agencies are branding her, or the elite is branding her terrorist because she was in the company of the terrorists. That's the reason.
News poured into the newsroom and the whole newsroom was abuzz with it. Remember, it was because in such encounters, the kind of details that are coming in are usually very contradicting to each other. So everybody was coming up with different theories. And in Sohrabuddin, I remember because these on a bus, this man was supposedly traveling with his wife Kausarbi, and the theories that came in after the encounter were that they were actually abducted by the police, Gujarat police. And that too, the big mystery that was actually evolving in the newsroom was that this man was traveling from Hyderabad to Maharashtra, and on the way on the border, he was actually abducted supposedly by the police, with the theories that emerged later.
Little doubt that Sohrabuddin was involved in criminal activity. The question, of course, arises simply because Sohrabuddin was a criminal. Do you then get involved in an encounter killing or not?
But then it was like if he was abducted on a certain day, taken into custody and killed 3 days later, and then wife on another day, were they kept separately? So what Kausarbi kept separately, and was Sohrabuddin kept separately? And Kausarbi was supposedly wanting also to stay with him, but she said that once they took him, I knew they would kill him.
I covered Sohrabuddin case when it was transferred from Gujarat to the Mumbai Special Court. And after attending the numerous hearings there, the story emerged that Sohrabuddin was not a normal person like Ishrat Jahan. He had criminal record. He had 2 murder cases against him. He was involved in kidnapping and extortion. and there was a big marble, what we can say, marble trader, and he used to extort money from the marble traders. So there is one theory which suggests that these marble traders, they requested, into single inverted comma, to the police to eliminate him so that they can do their business in a quiet manner.
I think Sohrabuddin or the later encounters that happened around people related to Gujarat was all about rocking politics, the politics of this country. They were becoming weapons in the hands of the opposition, and usually the government in power was just, trying to put forth the police officers to give their views and somehow justify these encounters. I think the biggest point or the biggest place that police went wrong, which actually later became a big problem for DG Vanzara, was that they abducted them or took them away from the bus in full public view, in front of everyone. So that is where all the questions actually started evolving from, and that was probably the biggest mistake. If you see from the angle, if it was actually a botched up encounter, then that was the point which led to a lot of questions.
But again, the police had a reason, because all the police officers, they have been acquitted in this case. The defense could not establish anything. No motive has been established. In fact, BJP President Amit Shah was also an accused, but the court has removed the plot against him. Court has said that there is no proof, no evidence to show that it was a planned murder. It was an encounter, it was a genuine encounter, that the court has said.
Coercer be simply, as police sometimes calls it, collateral damage? Was coercer be collateral damage in the Sohrabuddin case? Is it true that she was raped before she was killed? Was there at all any gunfight, or were they taken into a safe house and then killed? And finally, even if Sohrabuddin and Tulsiram Prajapati and the others involved in this were indeed criminals, and there is enough evidence to suggest that they were criminals, were they bumped off without the due process of law being followed?
It was early in the morning, I remember. It was early in the morning, and there was initial information that main accused in Delhi serial blast case, Atif Mateen, he is hiding in L18, Batla House in Jamia Nagar.
We were, of course, in the office, and all of us were watching the news when this broke. And we were all on tenterhooks in September of 2008, because it'd been like a string of serial blasts across the country. There were blasts in Jaipur and in Surat and Mumbai, and then finally in Delhi. It was just less than a week, if I remember correctly, after the Delhi serial blasts.
That was that morning, 10:30 a.m. I think it happened, and again in the newsroom there was absolute, you can say, before we could understand what is happening. This is Jamia Nagar, Batla, and we remember I especially remember doing a lot of shows on that house L18 where the special police entered.
So police is on the spot, and they have surrounded the area, and sometime later we found out there were some gunshots heard. All the neighbors, nearby neighbors, were evacuated from that area, and within an hour we heard that there was an encounter.
And when we reached the spot, there was, it was utter confusion. It was in Jamia Nagar of South Delhi, where, it was like a 4-story building set in the middle of very, very, narrow lanes. It's the typical kind of, suburban Delhi architecture. And the militants were supposed to have been in the second floor of this building when they were surprised by the police officers who were in plain clothes. And clearly they did not expect some kind of resistance from the militants inside, because there was an exchange of fire, we are told.
One inspector, ML Sharma, who was leading that team, got injured. He was also fired.
It became huge news, and two of the alleged militants had been killed. Atif Amin, the supposed commander of Indian Mujahideen, had been killed, and another guy with him. And two, I think, had been taken into custody, and one or two of them had actually eloped. So the police had a tip off that these guys were together in L18 in Batla house, and there they did this raid. Mohan Chand Sharma, the inspector of special police in Delhi police, was actually leading the whole team, and he took the bullets first because they fired back as soon as they understood that the police was attacking.
This was in the morning of that day, and Inspector Sharma was brought to the hospital where he passed away because of loss of blood.
So there was complete uproar in the newsroom. I remember how we were doing lives that day. We had reporters and anchors actually who had gone up to the fields. I was in the studio and we were anchoring, and we had another anchor who was just, walking up the stairs, and Jamia Nagar came into big time news at that time. Every, you can say, little gully or thing there, the lanes that you have there, very congested area, those lanes, the reporters were actually barging in, trying to get their OBs, and
As in, there were inconsistencies in the stories that were generated after that, the versions that came out. In fact, there were stories that Inspector Sharma may have actually been accidentally shot by one of his own men, from the back. But that was quickly, it was repudiated in an investigation.
Jamia Nagar is again a very Muslim-dominated area, so you had a lot of these locals there coming up and even screaming against the media. They were actually even attacking some of the media people because they were not happy by the way things were being reported, that Jamia Nagar was actually developing over a period of time into a place where these militants were being housed. Because remember, these were guys who had actually taken the place on rent.
There were other stories that suggested that the police had captured the Indian Mujahideen men alive and had kind of executed them. But that also was subsequently cleared in investigation.
By the time Batla House occurs, encounter killings have begun now all over the country. It is not as if encounter killings have only taken place in Gujarat. Encounter killings have taken place across this country in different parts of India at different stages.
The police had virtually cordoned off the entire area, and all we could see was what we could see from the buildings around it. Right? We climbed to the buildings, neighboring buildings, to try and get an idea of what was going on there. So, and there are actually a huge shortage of eyewitnesses in this whole encounter. Not many people who could actually give us a very clear account of what exactly happened.
There was initial drama. A peaceful local area, Jamia Nagar, Delhi, where militants were holed up in a house and then they were attacked. And also, because Mohan Chand Sharma, if you remember, after that, when he was being rushed to the hospital, and all this was happening in front of the camera, he was being rushed to the hospital, there was some delay, and I remember his family was also coming, and then the way Digvijay Singh or a whole lot of politicians at that time, if you remember, spoke about these supposed militants and started saying that they were not militants, they were just being targeted. So this entire Hindu-Muslim politics played up after that.
Batla House became highly politicized for various reasons. There were elections around the corner.
You see, the terror dimension gave encounter killings a new dimension, because now the public opinion was, if they are terrorists, let's bump them off. Terrorists don't deserve a free trial.
The Muslim community saw this as an example of them, members being targeted in fake encounters by the police. So it became highly politically surcharged, emotionally surcharged. That's one of the reasons that it became so controversial.
I was here in the newsroom, actually doing a special report that I do from the newsroom. We could, by the view of it, by the magnitude of it, we could realize that this was going to become big. We went blank into the news, just cut into the news, dropped our story that we were playing, just went into the news. And all we had initially were these videos that, if you remember, Burhan Wani was known as a young militant who used to upload a lot of his cricket videos on Facebook. So we just had those videos, we had his treated images, and on we went.
I met his father just a few months before the encounter, and his father was a school principal, is a school principal, and he showed me pictures of his son, who he considered a hero. And his father actually told me that he was very resigned to his son dying in an encounter with the police or the army.
Was he really in a safe house and under the control of the authorities? Was there a necessity at that moment to get into a firefight?
So he was actually talking about the fact that he had lost one son already a few months before, and he was very resigned to losing another son for the so-called, the cause as he called it. Burhan Wani encounter would probably be independent India's most sensational encounter, in the sense at the civil unrest that it has led to. Nobody could actually predict that this was kind of the spark that would ignite this weeks and months of civil unrest and protests in the valley, which is still, we're 3 months down after the encounter. It's still not back to normal. I mean, in actual terms, this would be the encounter, the most defining security forces encounter of independent India, I would think. We were in an edit meeting when we were discussing the jailbreak, as a matter of fact, and within a few hours we started getting updates on our phones saying that there had been an encounter and all 8 Simi men had been shot dead.
Never at a scene of crime had you seen 8 people killed like this. So even before the video had come, questions had emerged. How did they run away? Little facts coming out, they had used bed sheets to run away. There were 3 walls. How did they jump up those huge walls? What were the kind of weapons they had? They actually killed one of the head constables there.
After they came out, they all were heading in the same direction. They were cornered by the police. The police must have chased them out. Some villagers must have passed on the information to the police. But the police did not wait. There was no exchange of fire. Police cornered them and shot them.
But the biggest problem was because the Home Minister of the state was saying something else on phone to various channels. The police there, or the ATS chief, the SIT chief there, was actually saying something else. So one was saying they didn't have weapons, one was saying they had weapons, and then by the evening when the videos came out and you saw weapons being pulled out, they were blunt knives. So obviously, how were they firing if they didn't have the arms?
Because the people, what I am hearing from MP also, that police were angry because one of their colleagues had been killed. And once a uniformed person gets a weapon in his hand, and when revenge is in his mind, he can't wait.
So I think in some of these encounters, to also look at it from a police perspective, the police is also under pressure to deliver results. And those results involve ensuring that those who are responsible for the jailbreak and the killing of the constable are killed.
We have to ensure that nobody goes against the law, and the police was actually found in the wrong.
There's no doubt about the fact that the people in Bhopal jailbreak were Simi activists. There's no doubt, for instance, that Sohrabuddin was an arms trafficker and he was working with the underworld and with terrorists. I mean, why kill, shoot them? A live terrorist is far better for the law enforcement agencies than a dead one.